Okay, this was unexpected because I didn't anticipate myself winning one at this point. I want to say I've done just around 100 of these, maybe a bit under. It still felt like a long ways to go before finishing at the front of the pack with this one. But yeah, I won my first grand race as of the 1st of January, I believe. So it's been a couple of weeks, but I actually wanted to show you guys the run. Before this, I think I was getting slightly better at grand races in general, finishing in the top 5, top 6, maybe 75% of the time. Eventually, one of the events just clicked and I managed to take first position. Let's see how it went. Okay, so the track they gave us for this one was the Black Beach, and the triad of vehicles offered to us were Racing, Hypercar and Alpha GP. It's something I don't see much of, at least that combination. These are all very fast categories and collision is on, so you can expect a lot of carnage to ensue. For Racing, I went with the Lamborghini Essenza. For Hypercar, I went with the Bugatti Lavatoire Noir, sorry for the bad pronunciation. And for the Alpha GP, I went with the Ivory Tower AGP R07. I can imagine a lot of people would be asking why I chose this Bugatti in particular. No one really uses this, at least from what I've seen. It's really expensive, if not one of the most expensive cars in the game at 2.7 mil, so that could be why I don't see it often, but we'll talk more on that during the race. I actually started off in the front of the pack, sitting in a comfortable second alongside a Bentley, another car you don't usually see during a grand race. It does have a good launch, but I managed to squeeze ahead in the beginning here and take pole position. However, my first obvious mistake was going off-road slightly. I think I was a bit nervous holding the top spot because this is the best time to create a gap without any obstructions in your way, so I should be taking advantage of that. As a result, I was a bit slow around the first few bends and someone overtook me. I see this car a lot, but I always forget what it's called. It gives me a McLaren F1 vibe, but the visible fan in the back shows that it's far from that. I want to say that this vehicle is the meta for the racing category. You will always see someone driving this car. Luckily, the gap already started to widen, so it was pretty much a 1-2 battle from here. I tried saving my NOS as much as I could, only taking a sip of it, but mainly relied on slipstreaming to get ahead here. Now, I was anticipating a bit of dirty driving, but I'm thankful it didn't come to that. This guy was a clean driver, which gave us both a smooth ride for the next minute or so. There were times where I appeared faster, but I didn't want to accidentally ram this guy, so I played it safe. It also helped because this corner is a bit sharper than you expect. I think this is the first time I've taken that corner properly without getting crunched up here. Obviously, with quick cars, we are progressing this race rapidly, so the hypercar section was fast approaching. Entei, the player I was battling here, did go slightly off-road, which allowed me to catch up, and we were objectively side by side at one point. I did take this corner a bit wide. I misjudged my speed here, which allowed Entei to pass me, and it was a slight uphill battle from here. While inside the tunnel, they slowed down to allow me to pass. There was a slight bend up ahead, but it felt too early to drop speed, so I assumed they wanted the slipstream instead. Now, for those who know a bit more about this car, despite it being expensive, it's honestly not that great for racing in the hyper category. The only reason I say this is because its acceleration is kinda poor. It does take a while to get this up to top speed, like granddad pace. It belongs in a crawler lane. Compared to other hypercars, if it wasn't for slipstreaming and NOS, I'd be left in the dust. Out of all the Bugattis in the hypercar category, I think this is the worst one. When it's at top speed, it's a beast though, hitting a maximum of just over 300 miles an hour, so it can challenge other racers then. It's just when you're coming off corners, expect to be overtaken very easily. The main reason I got this was for the aesthetic. I love the way this thing looks, the backlights, the 6 exhaust, which is a rare sight. It gives it a mean look. It's its own little beast from a physical perspective, and I think I'd only just made enough money to buy it the day before, so I wanted to test it out. I will say it does handle well though, at least in terms of turning. I have a much better time controlling this thing at speed compared to the Bugatti Divo, for example. At the 53% mark, I actually lost Entei. I wasn't paying attention during the race, but after watching it back, it seems like he lost a bit of control on one of the exits. I think his rear gave out, so I had a bit of space behind me. But because of this car's poor acceleration, positions 2 to 4 started to close the gap. I just had to hold out till the Alpha GP section because, like I said in my last video, those vehicles stick to the road like Gorilla Glue. There is a jump here that you can take, but it is a bit risky because if you are going really fast, you can actually send it into that little hut over there, which forces a reset. Luckily, I was going at a meh-ish speed, so I managed to stick the landing and not lose control on the grass. And one more corner later, I hit the Alpha GP section. Now, I was still a little bit nervous. Despite the decent gap I had, the palms were sweaty. I think the closer I got to finishing the race, the more I was thinking thinking about not trying to mess up, which isn't a good mindset to have. You should just race like normal, but I think it's a psychological mind game where if you think too hard about not trying to do something, you're likely to end up doing it, and spoiler alert, I kinda did that. As good as the Alpha GP cars are, they respond the worst when you go off-road. You lose a lot of speed, and because the racers behind me were close to one another, they had slipstream advantage and would eventually catch up to me. I wasn't letting my NOS build up either, so I was running on fumes. At the 90% mark was my big mistake. I went off-road for far too long here and ended up dropping around 62 miles an hour, which was a heavy blow because the arrows on the map started to get larger and closer. I was panicking a bit, but there wasn't much left of the race, so all I had to do was just keep this thing on the road.
No, 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 no. Wait. Wait.
Victory.
And there we have it, my first win of the Grand Race. Arguably not the most exciting event. I did start in the front row, so I was lucky enough to stay ahead and avoid the carnage behind me. The hypercar I chose was not the best either, and on top of that I did make a few mistakes in the Alpha GP section by going off-road. But hey, a win's a win. It's something I didn't expect to happen so soon, but luck was on my side here. What's weird though is, as of editing this video, I managed to win another Grand Race with the exact same cars and the exact same track. Except the only difference is where I started in 12th position, so there was a bit more carnage to endure, but by staying on the inside and preserving my NOS, I managed to sneak my way ahead of the pack. It was a little less clean than the first event as I was bumping walls and accidentally collided with other players, which could be seen as intentional ramming. I promise you this wasn't on purpose. I slowed down to stay behind the guy as he did go off-road slightly, but he was slower than anticipated, which resulted in me clipping his back wheel. Luckily nothing bad came of it. We all held our positions up into a slight bend ahead that crosses a bridge. Now this used to cause me problems when I started playing the Grand Race for the first time. I always used to go off-road or hit the barrier on the left here. It's debatable whether you can keep a constant speed or slow down. I slowed down in this instance and it worked out in my favour because the other two ahead of me overshot and went off-road. This kinda paved the way for me to hold first position, so from here on it kinda went the same way as the first race did. I did go slightly off-road in the Bugatti and the IVT, nothing crazy though, and that was my second win. So with 2 wins under my belt, I still think the Grand Race is tough. It's not easy to get a win in this, but it is possible. Look at me, 100 attempts later. A bit of luck, composure and good driving will get you there, but there are times where you'll be unlucky, whether that's rammers or your own mistakes. If you're someone who hasn't won yet, I did post a previous video which included some tips for the Grand Race, and I'm kinda saying the same thing here, but in this instance, cornering properly is your best friend. In the first race I showed, you could say I got lucky as Entei lost control of his car. Had they kept up with me, the race could have been very different, but for the second race especially, slowing down at the right time could make or break a situation. You get a 2-for-1 driving like this when going against rammers as well, since they typically send it on corners more often. If you fake out your turns and slow down, they'll overshoot while you can take the corner properly. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to share this time round. Hope you all had a great start to the new year, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's been Dre, take care and see you next time.